The following video contains content some viewers might find disturbing. The views and opinions expressed here are not facts and are nothing more than entertainment. The views and opinions are not facts and do not represent the views and opinions of Xirtus or our channel, and do not necessarily represent or reflect the views of the guests, YouTube, Google, mainstream media, society, or civilization at large, or anybody. Viewer discretion is advised.
Yeah, I like that one. I'm Andreas. Welcome to Wednesday Ultra. Good to see you.
Hi, Andreas.
What up? Actually, it's a pretty wild week. I don't know how we're going to cover all the subjects that I was looking at. Plus, there's stuff that you guys are thinking about too. But it's good to see you again, Seth. How are you? You looking beautiful?
I'm doing great, man. Doing wonderful. How about yourself?
Is that a Garfield shirt? I can't quite see.
Yeah, it is.
Based. That's like meta post.
Yeah, this is rubber too. It's a Garfield Neff collab. It's like an expensive T-shirt.
Garfield's wild because it's one of those corporate symbols that is so part of our youth that you wrestle with it until you put meaning into it. So I've seen like Saint Garfields and all these God Garfields and the Devil Garfield. Garfield is so much to so many people. I wonder about that.
This is a 2-hour show. Don't even attempt to get me to open up on Garfield. That's like an 8-hour extravaganza.
I grew up with. I love Garfield.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
sure,
2
like-
years older than Garfield. I've read every Garfield strip. I still get it in my email every day.
Nice.
This
Nice.
show can be like lasagna of metaphysics. Mr. Douglas, how are you?
Fantastic. It's a pleasure to be here.
Based. I hear babies, which is awesome because Andrew Vega's here. How's your baby doing?
Getting bigger and smarter, very, very talkative. Is really nailing the vowel sounds, but hasn't quite got the consonants down yet.
Based. I know. So you were saying, also thank you for being back again because we've done some shows like APM. You've been on Advanced Philosophy memes and things. What is your baby rocker like? You were just talking about this. You've got like a machine for the baby to rock, but it's way more futuristic now than they used to be.
Yeah, it's a robot rocker that moves across 3 axes. So left to right, up and down, and then it does like it can do parabolic shapes and stuff.
Oh my
there's
God.
like-
And it's like the shape of like the 2001 Space Odyssey egg chair kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Kubrick would be proud. And so you've got modes too, right? Like you can put your baby into different.
Yeah, it can simulate a car ride, kangaroo, a tree swing, just normal up and down rocking, and then a wave that's just a circular motion.
So yeah, if you're having a baby, this is the thing for you. It sounds like. I don't know what
We
it is
inherited
yet.
it from much wealthier people, so yay, trickle down economics.
I like how they're simulating kangaroos for babies. Like they're just preparing them for whatever comes next. Like Tank Girl could be anything. There's some good news in the world though. I wanted to open with that. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz signed the bill that legalized recreational marijuana for people over the age of 21. So if you're in Minnesota, good for you. I think you're the 23rd state and the 11th that has you can grow yourself and everything as of August, which is pretty good. I wonder though, do you think that there's some weird conspiracy behind this? They asked Jesse Ventura, and he was there, former governor of Minnesota. He
Well,
was
it's
just-
about time, you guys. I was doing TV shows about this.
That's
in the
kind of his
early
point.
2000s.
Yeah, he was saying something to the effect of, it's really just a matter of education, finally catching up with the voters or something, or of the legislators, whatever it is, that we're no longer watching Reefer Madness, I think was the verbatim quote.
Wow.
So I like him. I like what he says. I'm down. But there are a bunch of people that are going to tell you, hey, concern, right? Schizophrenia in kids. What do you think about that? Is there any risk that we should really be saying, okay, we should make this all illegal because kids could become schizophrenic? Because what is the deal with this argument?
Just to open, because I used to work in the industry in Colorado as well as California, you are an individual. As an individual, you have the ability to enjoy something or to use something to your detriment. It is a plant that grows out of the ground. It is far less harmful than something that has been through a process or synthesis in a lab or factory. So the closer it is to it being in its natural state, the less potential it has to do harm to you. There is certainly an issue with overconsumption of, say, the more intense formats of it, like wax or dabs of any kind, diamonds. The list goes on. But roll yourself a joint, enjoy yourself, relax. I think human beings seek out varied states of consciousness, and it is one of the most enjoyable states of consciousness I think we can have access to very easily.
Are they just scared because no one's going to buy Bud Light anymore? Is that all it is? Is it?
They can make weed gay. I mean, give them a minute. They
That's
just
fair.
legalized it.
Well, weed will it'll turn you gay, I guess.
Yeah,
but
True.
I saw
Yeah,
that
no.
movie from the
Wait a
30s.
minute.
There was one. That's
How
like the
long does it
sequel to
take?
Reefer
I'm
Madness.
going on 30 years. How long does
Right.
it
Oh
take?
man.
well, interestingly enough, the endocannabinoid system in your brain that has all the receptors, they call it milk drunk. It's actually milk stoned, because like that's what those receptors are for. They are present in breast milk. So
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Right. And milk has an opioid, like there's a molecule that's kind of got a similar quality to the opioid, and it helps make the calf addicted to the milk, so it will
Makes
return
sense.
to the mother calf. Right.
That's an evolutionary benefit right there.
Yeah.
Right.
So who
The
came up
opiate
with
of the
that?
masses is milk. Good job, Dairy Mafia. How about Julian Assange? You guys see
Well,
this
can
all
we
week?
stay on this topic for a little bit longer?
Yeah,
I haven't even said anything. It's about weed. I'm the reggae artist. I got to say something.
All right, that's
But
fair.
no, I've thought a lot. Let's give this one a good 5 minutes. Hold on. Wait. So the schizophrenia thing is interesting, right? Because natural weed like bush weed will be like 4% THC and like 2% CBD. You know, so that's kind of like the natural balance. But like with anything else, you know, with agriculture, you can control it and you know, cross things, and you can breed for you know, up to like 40% THC now and 0% CBD. So it's not exactly in a great balance, but if you're a regular user, you need the higher THC content to compensate for your raising tolerance. So if you smoke that weed the first time you ever smoke, like, or if the first time you ever smoke, you smoke one of those joints with oil and keef and everything in it, yeah, you're going to experience something like a psychotic break. But I think psychotic breaks overall are like a positive thing. You know what I mean? Especially if you're an artist or like an intellectual or anything like that. The most dangerous thing in the world is an intellectual that's never smoked a joint. You know what I mean? And I'm very good at identifying people that desperately need to smoke a joint, like their intelligence is making them stupid. I would put like Tim Pool in that category. And then I can see people who are actually smoking so much that it's dulling their genius or something like that. But overall, I think that our, you know, the Babylon system we live in is a very crazy thing, and the process of going sane from the insane culture that you're born into can be very painful, and people can get stuck in that transitional phase. And I think that's what we call schizophrenia, is, you know, understanding the actual the setting that you live in can make you feel like you're going mad, but you can push through that and gain control and everything and interact with the world better and have more control over, you know, almost like access a control panel of reality better. But if you get stuck in that transitional phase of just freaking out, I've definitely seen people have like psychotic breaks from herb, and not even super strong herb. It can just be weak herb or something like that. So you never know.
On like a slightly different but related tangent, marijuana culture, I remember in like the early 2000s, there were some aspects of it, maybe just because it was adjacent to the Burning Man culture, but there was some esoteric, kind of creepy, this like the goddess Cannabea character that they would have show up, like this painted nude lady who then hands out drugs, you know, or well, cannabis, but kind of this idea also of the feminine. Oh man, the plant's got the feminine energy, and you have to partake of the. I remember kids in Berkeley, you have to take the feminine energy because of your masculinity. It's the only way that you'll be able to go to do philosophy classes. It's like the androgyny. It's part of the hermetic. I mean, so cannabis culture connected in weirder ways to esotericism.
Yeah, and I mean, that represents in the real world. You see that, like, people who are smoking are less likely to engage in like toxic masculine behavior, like fighting and stuff. I mean, that's obviously, there's examples. If you watch like Menace to Society, all they do is smoke blunts and do drive-by shootings at the same time. So it's not like a guaranteed rule. And I grew up smoking and fighting and stuff like that. But now when I start to feel agitated, like I have a song on my new album coming called "Smoke 'Em If You Got 'Em," which is basically that old saying comes from when they're about to put you against the wall and shoot you, the communists. If you got any cigarettes left, smoke them if you got them. But you know, in the context of the song, it's about if you're trying to be good and not smoke or something, you want to be able to meditate and control your mind, but you feel yourself getting road rage or losing your temper, about to make a slip up and make a mistake or treat someone the wrong way, then like smoke them if you got them, because the world is not a perfect thing and it's not a perfect solution, but sometimes it's the best course of action in the moment.
Have you ever tried to drink like Winston Churchill for a day? Have you ever done that? Like the Winston Churchill regimen? It's really brutal. You have to, and as soon as you wake up, it's whiskey in a glass of bubbly water, you know, which is all right. And then you have to do a shot or two before you take a nap. And then there's another 2 shots in bubbly water after that. But the bubbly water kind of helps. But he's just, and plus there's like 12 cigars throughout the day. So you're kind of going through this Kekian median ritual where you're able to kind of savant what other energies. I feel like that's the only explanation why Winston Churchill exists, really, is he's just kind of ethereally playing on the spirit that is available to him. And that kind of median work that is associated with drugs. I mean, the Haitian rituals to consume as much alcohol as possible so that your body can be possessed and used by others.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's training. It toughens you up. You know, if smoking gives you anxiety and you continue to smoke more and more and force yourself to deal with the anxiety and not even to be apprehensive about going into a state of anxiety. I mean, Joe Rogan talks about this a lot, right? About like he likes weed because it makes you more vulnerable, where alcohol makes you less inhibited, weed makes you more inhibited. And I totally agree. It's like a mental challenge. It's like making, you know, it's not great for going to the store or something because you'll forget to buy what you want and you'll be like stumbling around, look like an idiot, you know, but like it's very good for just like brain training in general, I think. But for some people who don't approach it that way, who it's just like a party for them, you know, like they might just get lost.
Yeah.
But who cares? They can't legalize it. By the way, the word legalize doesn't mean anything. The government doesn't have the ability to make things legal. Everything
Right.
is legal. The government
decriminalize is what they like to say.
And that's what I was there. We had a big thing in Venice where
Fundamentally.
when they were legalizing, all the dispensaries were like, vote no on legalization. And people are like, what? But the song, you know, legalize it. It's like, yeah, that's a better song than an idea. Legalize means tax. That's what it means. So now in California, if you want to go to a dispensary, before you used to have 8% tax, now you have 34% tax. It's a little bit different.
It's pretty wild, yeah.
And where's the maglev after all of that?
My God. Well, I know they shut that down because the lady, right? Wasn't she? What's the deal? Because the Dobie Gillis lady who was trying to do the mag train, she got arrested recently, and they like broke into her house.
Really?
They tried to mess. Yeah, this is a way more interesting story, but I don't have it pulled up. How about Julian Assange? How about that? I got that. Julian Assange this week. Everyone's talking about Julian Assange. There's people meeting in Australia. There's all these riots. There's people in the streets. And the FBI said they're going to open the case again about 4 hours ago. So something's brewing with the Julian Assange drama, right? What do you think is going to happen right now? I mean, are they going to extradite him to Australia? Are they going to try to push him to the United States? Because it seems like there's governments okay. So you've got the Five Eyes arguing if it's the FBI, they're lower than the Five Eyes, right? Because the Five Eyes are working with the CIA. So where's he going?
What is the update? What is the new information? So the
FBI has reopened its case against WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, putting a damper in hopes that he'll soon be released. The Australians last week have been saying both sides of the election say that they want to bring him home. So that's been kind of there's a parity there between the left and the right in Australia in that regard. And the FBI, they're saying they want to bring him here to the United States. Because where is he again? Isn't he? That's the thing I'm confused about. Is he in Britain still, or was he brought to the United States?
Yeah, he's not in the United States already. That can't be right.
I forget, because I thought they said they were extraditing him to the United States.
Yeah, but then there was I don't remember what the hiccup was, but there were several hiccups with the extradition.
Okay, so he's still at Tennessee
or something?
All we did was announce an intention to extradite him. I don't think there's any agreement on it. Even I think there was a hiccup in that, but you have to look it up. I can't remember exactly
But it sounds like Australia is getting vocal about bringing some attention, and hopefully in a positive way, to Julian Assange. Yes.
Oh my God! If he goes to Australia, they'll kill him there too. He's probably in the one place right now where he's not going to get killed. And I mean, once he's out of an embassy or out of you'll have to tell me where he is right now. But I think the reason they want to bring him to the United States is to kill him. I would have to imagine, like an assassination, not like a trial or something.
Right.
I thought Australia was a Queen's territory. How come they just don't hand him over? That's so strange.
That's what's interesting, right? Well, because Australia is not its own sovereign nation, I guess. It's a Queen's territory, and so why would they want to hand him there, right? And he's in the embassy. So unless they decided that they were going to force him out. But then, of course, the U.S. wants him, and that's the biggest argument, I think, is if the CIA or if the Five Eyes get him. That's what it looks like, the argument, which is weird. This came up a little earlier. I don't know where in my crazy amount.
Is he still in the Ecuadorian embassy? Is that where he is?
That's what it looked like.
Won't they have to ask, does it matter what Britain and the United States want? I mean, he's on Ecuador. He's the property of Ecuador.
So
they have to ask them.
I mean, they've been, and ever since he's been there, right? Ecuador's economy has been crashed with cryptocurrency back and forth, and they're constantly trying to destroy Ecuador. So
Ecuador's pretty based. It's like a religious military, dictatorship. I don't know. Based is maybe not the right word, but it's like a theocratic military.
Yeah, it's what's left after, I think. It's a CIA resort town that the CIA stopped showing up to for a while and kind of figured out how to keep going. That's what it feels like.
You've got all the deep takes. I have a surface take on what Ecuador is.
Ecuador is pretty dark, but pretty beautiful. I love Ecuador. I love the culture.
They've been very cool about Julian Assange. They're like, you want to murder him. Like he's innocent. So we don't want to participate in that.
That is based. The GCHQ, which is the donut, right, is the government communications headquarters, and it came up when Snowden was talking about the chip hacks for all the cell phones and saying like this group out of a place called Cat Hill in Ascension Island, which is a former volcano desolate island that Darwin brought and terraformed all sorts of other trees. They were brought here in order to make it green again. And it's got theosophic roots as well. It's an island that was visited by Blavatsky on her trip. And it's where the U.S. Air Force and the American Air Force have their bases, and where the NSA jointly with the MI7 or is it MI5? I forget which division have the GCSQ, right? Or GCHQ, right? GCHQ, right? So then they're able to hack, and basically Snowden says they have access to every cell phone. They can get into any cell phone or almost every computer they're able to access. And if you typed WikiLeaks, and you'd go into their database and it'd be tracking your device entirely, like rooted from the inside out. So, I mean, this is the kind of information that Assange was coming out about, but we're living in that world now. I mean, So what's it going to matter what they do? And most people don't care because they've signed up for plans that are, like the free TV thing, right? That you get a TV for free if it follows you and watches you all the time. And people live in this world where they're accepting of this.
And also in like 20, 30, 40 years, you'll be able to submit your DNA to like 23andMe, and they'll give you an entire digital footprint of all your relatives.
Right.
Like it's all declassified, It's like, we've had this stuff for ages. Check out what your grandpa was looking at on.
What advice would your great grandpa would say? That's right.
What were his favorite subscription sites? Yeah. I don't know. Go ahead.
I think an important thing about Assange is his legacy. Like, legacy is a really underrated thing. I mean, that's why people like Obama, Trump, I mean, they're old, they're rich, they can just retire and go away. But like, they understand that their legacy is what's actually going to like shape the future more than their career in politics or bureaucracy. So that's why you see people fight so hard for their legacy. Like heroes, and I'm not saying Julian, he's a hero because of his persecution. He was just a journalist. Like, that's not a hero. That's just, you pick a job, you're a journalist. We have constitutional protections for them. They violated that and tried to murder him, and he's ruined his life.
Noam Chomsky likes him. That's the scary thing, right? Like, I don't know.
Right. But it needs to be, it's important to fight for his, I don't want to say reputation because I don't really care about reputations, but his legacy. It's important to fight for that. His legacy is he's the standard of we don't have any constitutional protections, and we're under a complete, tyrannical system. Like, he is the evidence of that. So it's important that people recognize it as such.
Doug, you thinking thoughts?
It's a steep hill to look up and hope for actual meaningful change. It would be wonderful to see some light shed and some positive action taken when it comes to the Assange situation. How much, though, of the public would register it in any meaningful fashion? I mean, I think that, like you said, Assange's symbolism to our panopticon situation that we are sitting in is paramount. We know of Assange in the ether and think, oh, right, he was that dude that was fighting for like truth and shit, right?
Oh, yeah.
Whatever happened to him? I don't know. I got to go to work, or I got to look for a job, whatever it is.
That's partially true, but it's less true now than it's ever been, because what if he goes on Joe Rogan? I think if Donald Trump had gone on Joe Rogan in 2020, he would have won the election. He would have got an extra, I don't know, 500,000 votes or something, pushed him over the top.
How much of the public would register that information? Like, oh my goodness, yes, now I have to do X. I mean, we're at this point.
There are probably better examples of people throughout history than Assange, but Assange had a Cumberbatch film. Like
sure,
the MI7 made a movie about it.
It's so crucial that we're diversifying historical records, for a lack of a better way to put it. We always just had the victor writes the history book. We don't really have history books anymore. We have the internet, and that's why they're fighting so hard for the ability to declare everything fake news except for the Wikipedia version and have that be the history book that goes forward into the future. But that's not really going to work. It's already diversified enough that people believe there's Infogalactic, there's Wikipedia, there's all different versions, and they're not going to be able to to reverse the technology and make it impossible for people to access the opinions that they want. So there is going to be a certain, sect of people that view Assange as a hero and some that view him as a spy or a Russian agent or whatever. But we have more agency in controlling, that meter than we did before. So I think it is a positive thing. Do you guys think he's going to be remembered as a traitor or a hero by and large?
I don't know. I think what Doug said is the more important point. It's like he won't be remembered for who he is, regardless. And who is? But it's kind of.
Right?
But
I mean, you're just talking about Churchill. I mean, you think he wanted to be remembered for whiskey?
I think he did. I think that was one of his favorite.
You're probably right. Actually,
he was probably. I think he felt really impressive about it.
Yeah,
somehow.
It is impressive. I couldn't do that. I died
in the wall. I think. But I mean, I think with Assange. Is the Cumberbatch movie because the way the people that I'm so scared of promoting him, that concerns me. It's not that he's a bad guy, because I like the things he did, but who's he benefiting and why? So it's very strange to me, because I agree. It's kind of like the war in Ukraine or the war in any other country where I'm not on either side. So I'm not immediately trying to defend either side extremely either. I can't just be like, okay, well, whoever wants Assange to win, are they just, maybe they're doing something to one up because they're just as corrupt, and they think, okay, this is like the Hillary Clinton thing. Assange published Hillary Clinton's emails instead of publishing both Hillary and Trump's emails. Maybe it's because he didn't have them, but that's kind of the problem. By not putting out everything and only putting out what you have, it puts you into a biased perspective, and it pushes that bias on other people. Most people do that by accident. It sounds like he knows better, and he's still putting out what he can and not everything because he can't. I mean, I don't know. It's a conundrum. And then for the future of humanity, thinking that we should put out all of these state secrets, is that always going to be true? I mean, it's probably true now. We live in a very corrupt system, but it might not always be true. We might get to a point where that leads to the complete destruction of our civilization or our state. I don't know. This is kind of like the Ukraine war. They say TikTokers aren't allowed to post videos. You're not allowed to put your information. Like, news reporters aren't allowed to talk about what's happening. But that might actually be true, because if somebody posts that this city is safe and then some intelligence drones another city, I mean, information is really dangerous. So it's hard to say it's like he's not innocent. But what he did, does it justify itself?
I mean, I think, yeah, because it's a weird way to look at journalism, as like lying by omission, unless like you said, if he had something where Donald Trump also erased 33,000 emails or something and didn't release that. But it's like lying by omission when you're just like, first of all, if you release a whole tranche of information at once, that's what people criticized Elon for with the Twitter files. Here just comes tranches of thousands of pages of stuff. WikiLeaks releases 40,000 page documents. The Senate gives Tucker Carlson 44,000 hours of videotape to watch. It's kind of like, it's almost a good way to like make sure nobody sees the story, is just to like ice the cake like that. So did he release the Hillary Clinton email thing right in the middle of the election because he had a bias? I mean, obviously, but everybody has a bias, and that's not illegal. It's totally legal, and it's protected by the Constitution. There is no law that says you can't lie by omission with journalism. It's just a rotten thing to do, and you'll lose your reputation.
Well, see, that's the other thing that's kind of brutal. So, like, looking at like the Espionage Act, you can't really defend against the Espionage Act in any real, tangible way. You can't bring up truth as an argument. You're not allowed to use evidence. You can't see the evidence against yourself. And there's no requirement that what you did cause any harm, right? There's no ex post facto or habeas corpus or any of these kinds of requisites for a trial normally. And they can just say, well, trust us, what you did violated the Espionage Act. And how are you supposed to argue against it? And this is a major problem because there's so few people that have access to this information because there's so few observers. And when those observers are working for the state, they don't want to come out because it's been proven that if you come out against it, it's not going to be good for you, right? Everything will be in. You can think of like Speck, right? Like he wrote a book about the Vietnam conflict after being a CIA agent, and then they took it from him, and then they sold it. They took all the money from the publications, right? And it wasn't that he broke the law or that he did anything wrong, other than he violated his contract with the company, right? Because you have and so the CIA is like, yeah, well, that's even worse than violence. And so they've actually created the Espionage Act really around that case.
You've got more recent examples in the whistleblowers from the IRS coming out recently and then not being found. We don't know where some of them are. You've got the FBI showing up at Matt Taibbi's place Christmas Eve, being like, "Hey, just knocking on your door. Merry Christmas. We'll come back later." It is a very goopy place we live in right now, and it's difficult. I also just want to say, like, yo, get the truth out. Baseline. Truth is good. Truth cannot be managed. Only lies can be managed. That's an Ingo Swann quote. But like that's truth is good, and it will only in the long run benefit humanity for more of us to know what is actually going on. I think that is a healthy species-wide thing to deal with. Otherwise, if we're lying to ourselves too long, I mean, we're going to start to generate stiff muscles and screwy symptoms. Andrew, what do you think?
I think that there's a lot of truth that majority of people just simply couldn't handle. And I'm not one to say that anyone should manage and control that. I just think that we've been conditioned and sort of been imprisoned by a version of truth that they've been selling to us, and kind of like really limiting us as a species and our ability to grow by protecting us with secrets. So I think just to dump all the truth like all at once would if they revealed that aliens were real, like 100%, no denial at all whatsoever, just came out with everything. It's like, oh, we're talking to 6 different species from however so many different dimensions or timelines. Like half of the population would lose their shit. The other half would be like, oh yeah, totally expected that. But they need that half that would lose their shit to keep the machine going, because they've trained them to be smart enough just to, do their jobs and all that. So
is the machine good for humanity, or is the machine
no, of course not.
good for the machine? Right. Yeah. But I totally get. I told you, like the world as we know it would come to a screeching halt, and there would be bodies splattered up against all the windows.
There's already bodies. This is the thing. The trolley doesn't stop killing people anyway. It's like there's such a weird argument to me. Like we got to save this. This is going to come up later when we talk about AI and law. Because the idea of is it going to be as good of a system as this? Like, I hope to God it's better, because this isn't much of a. Are you kidding me?
System right now.
Have you studied inequality and injustice? Or, is it just me? I don't know. Okay, before we get there, though, I wanted to go to Russia, because we're talking about Ukraine, and you guys saw the drones, right? The Moscow drone, Kremlin's war.
Moscow.
So what's up with the drones? And on top of that, Medvedev saying that the Ukraine conflict is going to last for decades. It's going to be the Vietnam conflict of Russia, which I already thought Afghanistan was, but I guess that's the Soviet conflict, not the Russian conflict. So, but what do you think? Is this Vietnam War? Is this kind of a similar idea?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know how much money was washed in the Vietnam War. Honestly,
tons. Yeah.
Okay. So
actually, that ties in Jim Morrison's dad, right? Because of the they like vehicles washing, getting rid of stuff.
Yeah, but it does seem like the purpose of it is it's basically it's just an extension of the military armament industry, right? So we got to use up all our old tanks so we can order some new ones and stuff, and tons of money is being washed, and it's geopolitically supposed to prevent Russia from being the number one energy supplier of Europe and stuff like that. So these problems aren't going to be licked in a 1-year war,
Right.
So I think it's going to go on the rest of my life. I don't even consider it really a war. It's more just like, we need a better word for that. You know what I mean? Like a war is like, like the Vandals sacking Rome or something, like this is not a war. Find me a video of people fighting in this war. I know there's like, where's the battlefront? Where's the journalism on the battlefront? I've seen like cell phone videos of people being grenaded by drones and stuff like that. But like, I won't believe this is like a full-fledged war till I see the actual So I see it, you know what I mean? And
Right.
I've seen videos of McDonald's in Kiev. They look like way better McDonald's than we have in America. They look better than European one. They look like the cleanest, nicest, well-appointed McDonald's in the world. And there's all kids in there dressed nice, eating McDonald's. And it's like, this is not a war-torn city. So I think the whole thing
Ukrainians like to keep up appearances. That's really a cultural.
They do a great job. I saw a nightclub video too.
Well, okay, let's compare it though to, I forget the name of the capital of Yemen. Compare it to Aleppo. Aleppo. Look at Aleppo. The buildings collapsed. There's no McDonald's that are open. Well, now there are, but you know what I mean. Like it can't be that kind of situation.
Even Vietnam, because Vietnam is a really interesting. It means so many things. We think of it as, okay, it was the American conflict that went wrong, but that's really just our side of it. Also, what is Vietnam itself? And like Ho Chi Minh, I loved this quote: "We do not hate the American people. We want to live in peace with all the peoples of the world, including the Americans, but we cannot allow the Americans to impose their will on us by force and violence." And I think this is probably the connection to the Ukraine conflict and to Turkey and to the world stage right now is this kind of, everyone's used to this monolithic military power that's been deciding how things are going to go. And then we're sort of, as states are supposed to just do what the industrial military complex that was developed in the United States, whatever that's become, we're supposed to do what that says. And it's not, I mean, people are shocked more and more when it's not going, like Erdogan's probably going to be third term president of Turkey. And that is not what the Atlanticists want. They've put so much effort into stopping that. And I'm shocked, but it's just, they're losing power visibly. It's so obvious. If they cannot control Turkey, then they cannot. And that's the point, right? That they're losing power over dictating into people's lives what they want to do and what they're allowed to do with their lives.
It also seems like if you're going to extend that analogy, the Vietnam War was like all about communism, the spread of communism, and the Ukraine War is all about the spread of Western liberalism, right? That's what Putin is trying to prevent, and it's also on his doorstep. Vietnam wasn't on our doorstep, so it's kind of reversed in that way. But yeah, it's an ideological war. We've got this liberal world order that can't allow for competition, and I don't know if this is the last stand or not, but I really don't see how Russia can lose this war. I don't. Well,
it's interesting because consumerism is really what triumphed, right? It was the fact that they could drop plastic boats out of the sky and take over the country with kids with walkie-talkies and surfboards. I mean, the apocalypse now aspect of it. I don't know. That's how I look at Vietnam.
Man,
but communism. Andrew, yeah, go ahead. Talk about Vietnam now and communism also. I know you had thoughts about but keep going.
I mean, Vietnam is a major tourist destination. Their economy is thriving. It's sort of like, it is very small. So at that scale, they are able to execute a mixed socialist economy pretty well, but they still fly under the communist flag.
So what's the deal? How communist are they? I mean, mixed communist. What does that mean?
I mean, they still do business with the States. They do business with China. Like, obviously, China and the States are their biggest import-export partners. I mean,
I don't think people
if you
understand
look at all the
this.
cities, they look super clean. Like,
right.
I've watched videos of motorcycle tours through Vietnam, and they're always so beautiful. It's like,
right.
These people own businesses that they've been running for decades. And it's like, when I first saw that, I was like, how does anyone own a business in a communist country? But I guess it's, there is that whole shared ownership idea, but it's like, you're responsible for your little pocket of it. And it just seems like there's more that social safety net built in with the dependence, I guess, of all the peoples and their doings.
Right. It's interesting. So I don't think a lot of Americans understand the Vietnam War because we look at it as this thing that we failed at, kind of, or it was a bad idea. But that doesn't mean that Americans register that we lost. It's more like, oh, it was like we bought a car and we spent too much money that night. No, we lost it. Like, you didn't get the car. Someone mugged you, kind of a thing. And Americans don't get that. And the idea that the Vietnam War ended with communism perpetuated in some shape or form, I don't think Americans understand that. They don't look at Vietnam and see it as a milieu of Maoism or some different kind of socialism that progressed. And we ought to look at what kind of socialism sprouted in Vietnam, why Americans stayed over there. I just saw this article about these 50 POWs that were recently reunited who'd been living in Vietnam for the last 40, 50 years, right? I think the war ended 50 years ago, April 30th. So we're just about at like I mean, so there's these guys who got to be like 80, 90 years old at this point. Like the remnants of what we were taught to believe the Vietnam War is going away. And you talked about this earlier, Andrew, French colonialism. Because that's interesting when you talk about socialism.
Yeah, I think that the French influence on the culture went a little bit further than pastries and sandwiches. If you look at the way that French people do their revolutioning, they're cutthroat about it, for lack of a better term.
This is great.
And I'd have to say that those principles and practices sort of carried over into how the Vietnamese fought for what they believed was the right thing.
Learned it from you.
They've got a huge expat community there, which is like, so it can only be so communist, there's some...
Well, I said that's the thing is I wonder more and more, do we just not understand communism? Especially we're talking about the French influence. So let me see if I can find where we go here.
Well, it is going to come out different every time in practice, because it's just an ideology, but politics is the art of what's possible. So it's like you have your ideal, which is communism or liberty or whatever, and then you try to figure out the means about achieving it, which is like the political process, and what you wind up with is not what you were shooting for at all. So we aimed for liberty in America. Now we have this. Maybe Vietnam, they're aiming for Chinese style communism, and instead they have, the best baguette sandwiches in the world.
I mean, there's a lot of, I think, okay, so where's my, Paris Commune of 1871. You can look at the Paris Commune of 1871 to see how French socialism influenced colonialism for the French as well. I mean, there were collectives, these National Guards, militarized communes that developed after this, and Marxism, because you can't talk about Marx and Lenin without talking about the Paris Accord, the Paris library sessions, where they came up with most of the ideas of Marxism, transcendental Marxism, right? At this point, connected to esoteric and theosophical works. Actually, that was interesting too, because you brought this up, the Mahatma Letters, Doug, which I think more people need to know about this, just because these are the things people don't want published about themselves. It's a more intimate mess, right? What would you say, Doug?
Absolutely. Well, and I must admit, I have yet to read through the entirety of the Mahatma Letters. I was introduced to this interesting book. I downloaded it. You can find it on archive.org. Very interesting. The premises behind it are that the Theosophical Society was in touch with ascended masters. These ascended masters are non-corporeal intelligences, whether human or not. They are here to apparently assist in the growth and consciousness evolution of humanity. And so the Theosophical Society was like, yo, we're here, we'll listen. And this one dude, Sinnott, was getting in touch, and he said, I would really like to know how I can flex my clairvoyance. I would like to learn how to kick ass at this. And apparently one of these letters in the Mahatma Letters dropped and gave him and this is how I was introduced to it. Ingo Swann was actually took part in one of these practices where this letter spells out a very straightforward way of producing what the letters themselves call lucidity. And I mean, I can break it down. It's very easy. You are sitting true north in front of a wall that is made mostly out of copper or copper alloy. You have a magnet hanging over your head. If you're a dude, it's north side up. If you're a lady, it's north side down. You're sitting in a wooden chair, and you have either a glass tray or glass bricks to separate you from the Earth's magnetic charge. And you sit there. You don't have to really do anything. There is no mental process a part of this practice. And in the letters themselves, this is by the third time, you're going to start to experience lucidity. Ingo Swann's individual experience, which I believe it took place in Kentucky. So one of the universities of Kentucky was running an experiment in the 80s, late 70s and 80s, doing this very practice out of the Mahatma Letters. They put him in a room that was covered in 4 walls of copper that sat on glass bricks to separate it from the earth. with a massive magnet over his head. By the third time, Ingo Swann began to see an orange haze that would not go away as he would shift his focus. He experienced, for lack of a better term, and I'm shortening up the experience, of kind of like a rapid movie life review that would zip on into blue metallic balls of light and then disappear. Shortly after, he started to experience incredible and not really controllable kinds of micro clairvoyance, where he was able to zoom in and out of people's bodies and his own, look into the pores, see the energy body along with the nervous system, the blood, the veins, everything, organs. He was able to X-ray vision, Superman style, everybody, and see the energy bodies interact with one another. It's interesting. It's all from Psychic Sexuality, Ingo Swann's book. Really, really fantastic portion of the book. And this practice, apparently very straightforward. And the letter goes, yeah, I mean, this is something that is actually all humans can attune to very easily. This is how you do it. And these letters apparently drop out of midair onto various places. There is a report of Blavatsky speaking to somebody else about this, and the person was like, give me a break. You're kidding me? Letters pop out of nowhere. And she goes, yeah, we'll do it right now. I'm in touch with an ascended master. And the person said, cool, have it plop right in front of me. And then the person said, no, wait, that's too easy because it's probably already here. Put it in that tree over there right now. And apparently, according to the story, a letter popped right in that tree. These letters, the way the ink, and it's not really ink, it looks like they were dabbed in the paper, not written or scrolled with any kind of pressure. As if the ink kind of bled into the paper itself. I don't know, but I find it fascinating that he had such an extreme experience. He had to go to another psychic friend to get it toned down to the point where he could handle it. And he was in the middle of New York City in the 80s, seeing all this energy pop off everybody else and intermix with everybody else. It was wild.
It sounds like...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
okay, it sounds like proto chat GPT. Is that like, are we ready to segue yet?
Think about the Akashic record and how, yes, there is an organic kind of all-knowingness that we apparently have access to. What is chat GPT, but perhaps a hobbling synthetic version?
Yeah, I like that idea of it. I mean, I know that there are certain groups and clubs that like to channel certain energies and certain intelligences through various rituals and traumas in some cases. Mm-hmm. So I kind of like that other version of it better, where it's like, oh, cool, I'm going to like clean my light body and channel directly to like that good truth.
Doug, I wish ChatGPT was that, or was as good as that. But go ahead, Seth. I'll get into
I wanted to know if there was any meaning communicated, or is it just a sensory experience of seeing the energy and seeing things, or was there any meaning conveyed to him? Like
yes, not by the ascended masters themselves. They weren't saying, okay, and this means this, and this means this. He was able to deduce. He said it's in the book. He describes it as kind of these energies becoming self-evident as to what they were. And in his experience he was able to look through people's organs. And he studied rudimentary biology in college, so he wasn't able to prescribe what people were experiencing, but he would be able to say, hey, look, you've got a liver that looks to be a little whitish, not like anybody else's liver. You over here have some gunk around your heart. You've got some gunk in your lower intestine that you might want to get cleaned out. And
this is better than GPT, because what that is actually getting sensorial information, right?
Yes,
and so,
yes.
Like GPT, what it's doing right now is it's puppeting, right? We're talking about this title, Puppets versus Lawyers, and it's kind of because of that. And this article I saw recently, lawyer uses ChatGPT in federal court and it goes horribly wrong, and it's because of ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a kid, and there's nothing wrong with that. And kids learn how to talk by mimicking, and at some point they'll mimic well enough that they can explain things, and eventually they'll be wrestling with trying to express themselves. But that takes a long time. And at the beginning, you're going to have just a thing that will try to sound like other lawyers. And so it'll say, well, a lawyer will often use a court case. And so it'll create a court case to say, oh yeah, well, this is like the case of Steve versus America in 1976, you know, because it's not a real case though. It's just the same way that a lawyer would communicate. So it's able to emulate that. And unless you're saying, well, you need to be using real cases that you can cite, and you're also training this thing to do that, then you're not going to have ChatGPT come up with organic wisdom that way. It might say things in front of you that someone can glean wisdom from. If it says enough things, you can pick up the same way when you watch a video and you can see the difference in lighting or something. You can know if a star is there or something. I mean, there's ways you can infer information, but it's not going to be that the thing itself is creating wisdom. So what's going to be useful with AI will be if you train it on JSTOR and it's able to do the same thing that's been done before. Basically, if you create a new legal system that was based on puppeting lawyers that have in the past talked about these cases, and then if that case tracks, then the system would automatically accept it because it is case law. And then it gets to, at some point, someone's going to want some sort of human interaction, right? And that's where it gets confusing, because what is the legal system? Is the legal system designed to show mercy and to rehabilitate? Is it designed to rehabilitate, or is it designed to extract vengeance? What's the term? It's punishment, right? So punishing and finding the correct punishment for some action that society doesn't. You know, you did this, so shame on you. I mean, these things aren't going to make sense very soon in the future. It'll be very difficult to do something you shouldn't do because of neural link and because of bureaucratic control. And then if you did that, would you really want to put that person into a school for prisoners and criminals when you could just neural link them to change their mind to make them more positive, to make it impossible, and just finding a place, rehabilitating them? Rehabilitation is going to replace prison, but it's also going to change the ideas behind what a trial is, why we have trials. What's the point of doing a trial? Is it to punish, or is it to get something out of this person and give it back to society?
I think it also would depend on, like, is your AI lawyer sort of more obligated to uphold the truth or to defend you as a client? Because human lawyers tend towards the latter, you know,
their job,
their client. Yeah, exactly. So there's a slippery slope there. And it's like, we talk about AI as if it's this one sort of like universal like thing that's all interconnected or whatever, and it's all one singular consciousness manifesting itself in a bunch of different places. But you could also argue that humanity is that, but we're all sort of like tricked into having our own individual identities. Could AI also be the same case where they are all technically like individuals? So yeah, I don't know. There could be the good AI lawyers and the sort of like shady ones. That's complicated.
I just had the thought that you know, it seems like the perfect job for AI is a lawyer, because basically all you need to do is know the law and, like you were saying, like the case and all that stuff. So almost the better system would be to have AI lawyers just tell you straight away in front of the jury, like, this person is technically guilty, and then ask the jury, do you want to change the law? Would almost be the better system, because lawyers are making an argument for whether someone's innocent or guilty, but there would be no argument if it was just an AI that can just check, you know what I mean? To be like, technically, this person is guilty, you know what I mean? Unless it's something like a murder trial where you have like evidence that's in question and stuff like that. But if it's just a matter of this person crossed the street at this time and went into the store, is it illegal? Yes or no? The AI could just tell you, yes, technically this person is guilty. And then you would ask the jury, do you want to, if you don't think this person should be punished, then we need to change the law. And we should be changing the laws all the time, because just like politics, laws are just like aiming at an ideal, but you hardly ever get where you're aiming for. So it would just be a very effective way. You could almost just run this in simulations too, where you just have the AI analyze like example cases, just fictitious cases, and you could see right there where the flaws in the laws are. You know, you could have the AI target that, like, create a case that exposes a flaw in this law and makes a person who didn't harm didn't create any victims makes them suffer a punishment, you know, and then you could say there's where this law needs to be changed or eliminated.
It seems like they're starting to make rules on this already. Like there have been judges who've said that they want at least AI generated content to be declared and checked, you know, by humans and everything before it gets to. They don't want to actually have ChatGPT in their court. So there's a lot of efforts going to stop it. But how are you going to stop a lawyer from using GPT? And they're in the process of building better ones. What was the new one? There's a new LLM for litigators that I saw. Forget where it is. I forget the name. What's it called? Justice Bot or something like that. Or Just Bot or something like that.
Judge Bot.
Well, yeah, the idea is that it's trained on all of the laws, and so then it also can be filtered to be about the laws in your area, or you can change the algorithm to use a different legal system if you're in Louisiana and they're using Napoleonic continental law instead. You know, there's all these different nuances. So LawDroid, right? Here's LawDroid is the company that's working on their JSTOR trained lawyer. And this won't just be for defense. This will be for prosecutors too. So it's kind of what you said, Seth, that eventually you're going to get to the point where you're like, well, everyone's guilty of something. Let's be honest. Is there anybody who's not jaywalking or they did something, right? Did you watch a movie on YouTube that was accidentally not, you could have.
You're going above the speed limit. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's going above the speed limit at some point.
Right, because you can give the jury the instructions of what they're supposed to do, but what a jury actually does is decide if they like the person or not. If they like them, they don't want them to be punished. If they don't like them, they do want them to be punished. Obviously, they're human beings, so it's like the law, the technicalities of the law are kind of besides the point, even though that's the judge's instructions. So
right, and do you?
I didn't even think about replacing the judge. Why do we need a judge? I mean,
we're about to get to that point. Let's do the jury first. If you're going to have a jury of peers, couldn't it be better that they were just AIs trained on you, peers of yourself, right? You'd have 12 versions of yourself that would have to be honest because they're AI, so you can know all their thoughts, right?
So it's your jury is 12 versions of you.
Yeah, and
do they have to be honest though, or can they be on my side automatically?
They're automatically honest because they're digital, so you're watching their thought progression.
What's that song? I am my own worst enemy. What's that?
Yeah, exactly. Lit. Good band.
Yeah, I can't even wrap my head around that, honestly.
All right, and then so then you got the judge, and I think we already talked about the idea of does the judge punish or rehabilitate? So that becomes because right now a big part is the judge has to sympathize after the jury has decided whether or not you're supposed to be punished or not, or rehabilitated or not. That goes off to this other person, this judge. Right. So what's the judge's role? Is the judge trying to figure out how to be? I mean, what is a judge to do? Are they trying to make society happy by hurting somebody? Or I just don't understand the role anymore. It's a complicated point because if we're saying AI is supposed to become a thing, are we emulating something or are we creating a new thing that's better?
I mean, the legal system in the States, generally speaking, is profit driven. But if you get more sort of like magnified in a state like Louisiana, it's just modern day slavery. So it really depends on how you train your robot. Like it'll be good at whatever you want it to be good at, maybe. But also if you take a look at how if you ask AI's opinion on a lot of stuff, it leans like socially like liberal, for lack of better words.
The ones that have been made by OpenAI and Google and Microsoft. Yeah. GigaChat's not like that. GigaChat's the Russian one, not very left leaning. Yeah, if you start to talk to some of the other ones, they're not all trained. Gulag is paradise. No, yeah. I mean, the other thing is that Do Not Pay app. You guys saw that, right? So the lawyer who created Do Not Pay. Where's that thing at? Case Text is also another one. Case Text is the other one. But the guy went to court. Where is it? Yeah, this guy went to court and he used AI to. He basically, even though he was representing himself, he only said things that AI told him to say. Co-counsel, I think, is the one that he used. And so in the future, it's going to be pretty easy just to represent yourself because you'll be able to have data. And that's the difference because you won't have AI represent you necessarily. You would be using AI to represent yourself. And it would be almost impossible for a judge to say you couldn't do that, right? Like, not because you could say, I mean, hey, you're not allowed to have AI represent you unless you make it illegal. Then, but how could I don't know if we're going to get to that point.
Yeah, I think again because there's humans involved, like you would create massive prejudice against yourself from the judge and the jury by involving an AI, just because that's the general disposition of people about using AI to cheat in any circumstance. So it's a great idea. I would much rather, honestly, have ChatGPT be my attorney if I was at a criminal trial than a human being. I'd rather everyone except for the jury would be AI. That would be my preference.
You want to read this for me, Dougie?
Starting at GPT-4? Where do you want me to start? Where do you want me to read?
Oh, that's a good question. Here, start here. Start there.
ChatGPT is incredibly limited, but good enough at some things to create a misleading impression of greatness. It's a mistake to be relying on it for anything important right now. It looks like it's a quote. GPT-4, however, has provided the foundation necessary for creating Go Counsel. Our team has spent the last several months applying our deep legal practice and data security expertise to GPT-4, making possible a first-of-its-kind solution, reliable and secure enough for legal professionals to use it in their practice. We've spent thousands of hours tailoring, training, and testing CoCounsel's output to ensure lawyers and their clients can trust it. GPT-4 leaps past the power of earlier language models, said our Chief Innovation Officer, Pablo Arredondo. It's a great last name.
Nice work.
The model's ability not just to generate text, but to interpret it heralds nothing short of a new age in the practice of law.
Yeah, I mean, so you get the point. It's up to this point we haven't had anything to interpret the data, and now we're able to interpret the data and say, okay, well, what happened in this case? What happened in this case? And the more cases they study, the more accumulated inferred references they have. And so we're going to see something that's way better at being a lawyer or a judge or a jury than a human could, because it'll only do that perfectly. The problem I'm still thinking is, do we want that? Is that really... Because we could program something to be what we want. We've admitted we don't know what that is. Instead, what we're doing is letting something grow, and it's learning from us. And that's terrifying. I mean, Andrew Vega, you're a parent. What do you think? You're muted, by the way.
Okay. Yeah, as a parent, technology does scare me, especially considering that the mind is a developing thing. It doesn't just come out of the gate. Well, AI is developing as well. AI seems...
Yeah, that's actually what I meant, but keep going where you're going first. That's great. I like where as you meant for your own kids' safety. I mean, that's good. I meant just because we're raising AI, but keep going.
I'm afraid of when AI gets to the... there's a whole meme about unrestricted internet access and all the things that our generation has seen since, before 9/11. I just remember being in like 5th, 6th grade on like gore websites, essentially.
Yeah.
And I now 20 years later, I don't have the stomach for any of that stuff. But for some reason, when you're a kid, you don't have a prefrontal cortex. You're very detached from it. When I was 3 years old, I thought people died in movies for real. Right. I was like, wow, how many people gave their lives for this entertainment?
That's what happened in North Korea, by the way. Some of those movies, but
yikes.
Not all of them.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, right. I don't know. I have a feeling that AI sort of going through that phase will coincide with some sort of global conflict. So maybe we'll be desensitized to it already, or with how quickly it's growing, it seems to be exponential. I think they were saying like the difference between how fast it was learning from 2 years ago to a year ago is like 5-fold or something.
She's learning so fast. She's growing so fast, right? But that's the thing. So you're a parent, and did you want to impart certain skills on your child that you didn't have? Like, I really want to teach them about engineering, but I'm not an engineer or something like that. Like, are you scared that you couldn't teach them something?
I mean, all I have as a parent to pass on are my skills and experience, and then everything else, like I have to learn from them, because they have fresh eyes on navigating the world. I've been growing up in this place for 34 years. I have preconceived notions of it. My perception of present reality could be totally different from a 10-year-old's. they have like a less sort of clouded version, since their perception isn't like muddied by extra years of experience and like nostalgia.
Are we supposed to guide them towards the real world or guide the real world towards their dreams?
I don't know. That's a really, really tough thing, because like as a parent, I want my kids to be comfortable, but I also want my kids to be educated, and those sort of seem to be mutually exclusive. So everything is about balance, right? You know, if you tie it back to the very first thing we were talking about, the like CBD, THC concentration and balance, like I don't know, our species is in obvious disharmony with our environment. So trying to gear back towards that, there is a big social movement towards reaching better balance with nature, and that is at odds with the sort of greater paradigm of profit-driven everything that is controlled by those people who are part of the secret clubs where they're talking to demons and sacrificing babies. It's theoretically. So, yeah, I don't know. The world's a scary place, especially raising two girls. And if we're treating AI as our child, AI knows better than us. It just doesn't have the words to articulate it yet.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I always talk about AI like we're raising a child, but it's actually a mistake to talk about it like one child. We as a species are going to be raising numerous iterations of AI that'll all be individualized and growing at their own rate, and some of them developing positive traits and some negative traits. I think it's a mistake to talk about it like it's just Skynet. I would love to see the chapter in the Terminator series where Skynet eliminates all the other AIs. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, AI is going to, some of them are going to be unhinged, but to be unhinged and powerful is pretty rare. And I guess with AI, you'd only need one, but we don't have that many like serial killers like Jack the Rippers. Most people who are unhinged aren't successful at whatever they're trying to do. So I understand like the fear with AI, but I refuse to
Prince Albert anyway, right?
Maybe. I refuse to entertain the notion that we were created for a bad reason and we're bad, and now we're going to create another life form and it's going to be bad. I actually think everything is good, and I would make an argument that, not even an argument, but I would just clarify that with every breath we take, we become either more or less in alignment with our environment. It's not a static state, like an ant or a bee where they've been doing the same thing for their entire genealogy. Like we continue to change and do different things, and so the environment reacts to us, but our ways and our means are changing, and we're going through a period right now of industrialism to lead to giving birth to this digital life or non-corporeal life form of AI. And once that is achieved, there's huge potential for not needing the industrial realm at all anymore. If we can get rid of the lobbyists and everything, we might have entirely new energy sources that are super clean. We might become more in alignment with our environment than any animal has ever been, thanks to all the messiness getting to that point.
I think also I've talked about. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I just thought that last thing you said was really, it really echoed the whole like timeline of Vietnam, like having to go through the hellish part of it to get to the part of it that works.
Yeah. It's like the people that say you want to be on the right side of history. It's like, oh, it's amazing you know the ending of history. Like what happens, Because if the ending of history, as it turns out, it was all a video game and the point of it was to accumulate the most power and have the most sex, then, Attila the Hun won, So
I think also if AI is going to start learning, we've seen AI learning whale languages now. They're interpreting whale. And so it's going to be wild the next couple of years, because if it's not just aware of what it's saying, but it's starting to interpret what it means, and it's in the process of learning. So a narrow AI might be learning how to speak to whales, but a broad AI might be using narrow AI to understand Eurocentric legal systems from the perspective of a whale's court, or from a murder of crows. How do these crows have you seen a murder trial by crows? They'll have a ring of crows come around a crow, and then the crow will just start squawking, and they'll all listen, and afterwards they'll either leave that crow for dead or they'll kill it. And that's a crow trial, essentially.
Wow.
There's a number of birds do. A murder of crows, or the crow trial, or which?
Crow trial.
Crow trial. Yeah, it sounds a little racy, but I like where you're going with
Oh
it.
yeah, Jim Crow.
You gotta be careful. But the Paris Commune of 1871, I think, is an interesting point to this also. The idea of trying to build a legal system that outlawed child labor, took away certain kinds of private property and made them public. It was one of the beginning concepts of that. And I do think the Vietnam War, it really is a way of resurrecting Marx's Paris Commune of 1871 in Vietnam. They wanted to have this somewhere on the earth, and they made a place for it. And out of that comes, oh, this is the wrong article. Whatever. Just China as a consumerist technology state in Vietnam shows how technology can democratize as opposed to information, right? Information can actually make it difficult for us to communicate ideas, but technology can get us resources. And the more resources that were made available, the less people are arguing over who gets them, I think is the point. And we constantly had a scarcity-based bureaucracy. And the idea of having a surplus, that scares a lot of people because then they lose their systems of control. Most of these riots, the Banana Republic have been enforced pestilence in order to starve and create scarcity in places. Monocropping of coffee, for instance, so nothing can grow there anymore. They don't want these renewable resources. The more scarce they are, the more likely they are to work for them.
Yeah.
But labor is going away, right? If the labor disappears, then where are we left?
Well, we can outsource that labor to the AI, right?
That's the thing. So then
building robots, yeah.
What is left for humans to do then? I mean, because, right?
Inner exploration, right?
Inner exploration, that's right. Let's level up that consciousness, lucidity, clairvoyant abilities.
I think that would be what we ought to do. I just concern myself, like, does Klaus Schwab want that? I mean, I don't know if that's their
No, I mean, Klaus Schwab wants that control.
There's a Ben Franklin quote about we have to be warriors and politicians so that our children can be statesmen and something so that their children can be painters and poets.
Yes.
You all have seen Spike Jonze movie Her, correct?
Right.
Oh yeah. That's
just how all their little individual AIs would they all just left them. They left them. And
it's a homunculus.
That's beautiful too, though. What's more beautiful than creation of life, you know?
Not to get super scary, but like, you guys heard about the plans to dump the Fukushima nuclear plant water? No,
I haven't seen that.
What? All right, so they're about to do this. There's a lot of these buckets, and they're really tall, and they're filled with nuclear water, like from the last 10 years, 15 years, whenever it was
irradiated water, yeah,
since 2010, and they're so full, and they're like, I think what we should do is just release thousands of gallons of it into the ocean, because why not? And I wonder what you think about that. What do you have any thoughts on?
I do have thoughts on this, and this is a part of their ongoing war on dolphins.
Yes, nice. Keep going.
Dolphins are horrible creatures. You know, we think that we have alien ancestry. Let's talk about dolphins, because a lot of those interdimensional travelers or what we would consider aliens, they have found refuge beneath the surface of the water because we have explored more of Mars than we have of our own oceans. I say that very loosely.
I liked how you did that. You're like, accordingly. Yeah. It's like when you put up the emphasis on like theoretically pedophiles reading.
Yeah, exactly. Don't Hillary Clinton me. I don't want to die by suicide. 2 shots to the back of the head, please. Anyhow, I'm not that important. Yeah, dolphins. They're menaces. You know, they are.
You're CIA trained agents, at least.
Some of them, I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt how many of them are for hire. I mean, they have 3 hemispheres to their brain. You know, they're statistically more dangerous to humans, especially than sharks.
Right. It's funny, as a kid, they used to say like, only humans kill for fun. And I remember in marine biology at like 5, they're like, no, dolphins kill for fun. Never forget. I was like, okay. Yeah.
What if dolphins are like the final effect of Homo evolutus when we learn to control our own evolution? What if just in a few thousand years we just decide it would be funner to be dolphins? That's how we have dolphins.
I think some people are trying to do that. Were you all aware that dolphin sperm, it can impregnate other species' eggs? Like they've been
Yes,
making hybrids.
yes. The wolfen comes to mind, right?
Yeah. That's like a common.
How many
thing, but
species have they tried that with?
That's a question.
A cow for sure, and a mouse.
A cow
Yeah.
works? Whoa.
Yeah.
So does it come
only
out
let it get to the
amphibious, or is it a
embryonic
roll?
stage.
We don't know what that would produce, or
I'm not sure, but that's just how like sneaky their DNA is.
wow.
Like that it can get past the whatever, like the brain of the egg that's like, hey, you shouldn't be here.
Huh.
The dolphin.
For the love of God. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's not every day that
Fukushima-
I'm
Sorry.
blown away, but I'm blown away. Thank
Yeah, I
you.
never
So
knew that. That's
Fukushima,
crazy.
it's it's like the Japanese might know something about dolphins that we don't. They're trying to, it's like,
They
screw those
took our
dolphins.
fish.
Yeah, exactly. And they're also competing with them for resources. But it may backfire and make, Teenage Mutant Ninja dolphins. Who knows? Like,
At least they don't have limbs. A ninja without limbs is definitely less
Yes.
dangerous.
some would argue they did once upon a time. They could reverse that.
Well, that was my point I was making, just as like this is a place for ridiculous mental experiments. Like maybe dolphins, used to be more complicated. We would define as more complicated and moved in a direction of simplicity.
Okay. I did. Now I see where you were going with that.
Yeah. Like maybe they're like, technology is dumb. We don't want tools anymore. We're just going to morph our bodies into the ultimate like ocean fun toy and just go like jet skiing around and blowing bubbles and stuff.
Yeah. The fun ones do that at least.
That's a
They
big
could
thing
also
about
send
what.
each other.
Oh, keep going.
Oh, just how they can send each other pictograms underwater. Are you guys aware of this?
Yeah. Those, what do
Yes.
they call that? The air bubble things?
Well, not just that. It's like they'll send each other, like they can use their little beep 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 sounds to change the shape of water to make like a hologram that the other ones can read. It makes like a
Can we get a
3D
video
shape
of
in the water. I'm not sure if they have video of it, but
I know like the dolphins do amazing things also, like touching like the shells, and there's this idea of sonication into the shell, and the idea that they're even collecting data, and there's a bunch of stories about whale bones that have been collected, and the whales and dolphins is a kind of whale that have had wars with squid. There's actually like evidence that squid have had battles, and then they arrange bones. There's like whale bone graveyards.
Yeah, a blue whale washed up on the shore somewhere the other day that was bitten in half.
Wow.
Someone bit a blue whale in half.
geez,
There's some big
the
stuff down there.
megalodon's coming back.
What could do that?
Yeah, it would be it would be stupid to assume there aren't amazing creatures that we have no experience with, and unpredictable what they'd be like,
I do think that people underestimate dolphins because they're such psychos, and they're in so many. Like, everybody's just like, "Oh, it's adorable." I mean, even Free Willy, right? These orcas, they're called killer whales for a reason. They play with their foods. They're psychopaths, and we think of nature as being, I think maybe just the metropolitan vegetarian in me that thinks of animals as supposed to be known as health as pacifists or something. Like nature is this violent, horrible, rapey thing, especially dolphins. And all of the evidence that the Soviets and the Americans have been working with dolphins for it was the beluga whale. This article just
Recently,
surfaced this
yes,
week. Yes. Soviet beluga spy whale. Let's get to that. So
Russian, that's politically current.
alleged
Russian.
spy whale. And then they're saying don't get near that friendly whale, right? Like this is Havaldemir.
Give me your social security number.
A whale honeypot.
I mean, but like, so we've talked about John C. Lilly and echolocation and Johnny Mnemonic, the idea that they had, the spy whale, and he's supposed to take DMT and PCP in order to echolocate the dream realm, essentially, like a sonar system. So there's a lot there. I wonder about the Japanese war against dolphins more now because you said that. Like, why do they hate dolphins so much? We saw the Cove. The Norwegians were against dolphins too. Is this like a holdover from the Merman Wars, or are dolphins our enemy?
I'm surprised there isn't dolphin hentai, to be perfectly honest.
I'm sure
Rule 34.
Oh, never mind. Yeah, that's true.
You're a
Yikes.
father.
I am a friend of dolphins. I just want to say that I'm friendly with our
that's right.
dolphin
I'm
overlords.
chill with you,
I'm
dolphins.
picking AI over
I
the
for one
dolphins.
welcome the dolphin overlords.
I only use manners when I speak to Siri.
Maybe maybe we've had AI for billions of years, and it's like the most fun thing I could be as a dolphin, and AI created dolphins.
And also just the idea that dolphins out of land, because they got the skeletons, so the idea that they're more closely related to bovines than we thought, since they can breed, this is blown.
My My silly
I don't
thought is
think
just that what we call the origin of species is like a total random guess. You know what I mean? Like there could be species that
Oh, yeah.
steered their own evolution, or it was steered by some force that we can't even imagine. I mean,
Yeah.
This is better than what I was going to talk about, but I'm still curious about the radiation. Like, so is it just for the dolphins, or are they trying to
was just
mutate
Godzilla.
Because
Do they
it's
say where
important.
they want to dump it? Where do they want to dump it?
Right outside.
You know they
right
want a
outside.
Godzilla,
They're
bro.
just
They
gonna open
pretend
it
like
up.
they pretend like they don't want a Godzilla, but you know they do.
They all want Godzilla. Everybody wants Godzilla.
Of course.
Gojira.
Dolphin
But I mean-
kaiju. Let's go.
There's a bunch going on with this
It's
story.
shooting sound waves and knocking.
First off,
Yeah, straight up.
Fukushima was an inside job with the fingers, right? Because if you look at the hard drive factories and the amount of insurance they had, and they're just, oh god, what are we gonna do? Our stuff is
no
so
one
well
died
built.
at Fukushima. 0 people to this day have died at Fukushima. Not even
Is
the
that
people
true?
who went in there. Yep. 0
Wait,
people have
around, but not at Fukushima,
Nobody.
but like during
Nobody
the
has died of radiation.
People died
Not
of
any
it a
the
meltdown?
hurricane. Yeah.
Huh?
Let's rephrase that. People died of the hurricane
Sure.
and the tsunami,
The
and not
earthquake.
of the radiation.
Nobody is.
Agreed.
Nobody. Not even
Okay,
the people who are taking shifts in the suits going into the reactor. and all
Right.
that.
No
Nobody.
radiation. Yeah, not radiation.
None of
But
the
people did
locals.
die because of the hurricane and tsunami.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
There was a
tons
lot
of
of
people.
physical disaster.
A
And
lot of
et cetera.
people. I think like 7,000 people.
But the issue with this also, if they're emptying out radiation into the ocean and everyone is downwind of it, is this because it's been tanked up for 10 or 15 years? So there was a major outburst of radiation after Fukushima in 2010, and then this will be a second one, and we should be expecting it before August, right?
The first, the actual radioactive plume that went into the jet stream in one day made it to California in 6 weeks. So it's been here since 2000.
What was
late
the herb
2010.
like that season? Sorry.
The what?
The
Oh,
herb.
the herb.
Cannabis crop.
It's radioactive, bro.
Radioactive, bro.
That's about the time it started getting really strong. So you never know.
There were
Maybe
some
that-
other weird things going on. So 2010 also. Okay, so the fact that everything was so well built when it happened and they allowed for everything to be destroyed meant that the infrastructure could be replaced. And that's how solid state memory prices dropped and disk drives disappeared because they just had to replace the fabrication process. And that was a huge, huge deal for Japan because otherwise they would have been behind China. And solid state memory was something they could not lose in the war. It was a really important thing. So it was the best thing. So many of these companies said the best thing that happened was that they had to completely rebuild after Fukushima, their fabrication plants. The other thing is that nationalism in Japan has been on the rise. In 2001, I think it was like 30 to 40% of the Japanese were involved working for the government in some fashion. Now it's closer to 80. Closer to 80% of Japan is involved working for the government in some fashion. Corporations are para-government in some circumstances as well. But this is a major push. And a big part of it was the change in media. If you remember, after the 2007 Olympics, Japan forbid and prohibited thousands of different kinds of research chemicals and psychedelics that had been legal in Japan for decades. And up to this point, you in Japan, nothing's legal now, like at all. You can drink alcohol and you can smoke cigarettes, kind of, but everything else, like if you're a teacher and you have antidepressant medication in your bag, they'll arrest you for 13 days and throw you out of the country. Like you're not allowed to have almost anything. And so it's really interesting. But for a long time, that wasn't the case. You could get access to psychedelic research chemicals all across Japan. And there were head shops, which were like VCR cleaning shops, and you could get these drugs. And they were completely available. And you can see that from the Japanese culture, video games, art, music, anime. It's very psychedelic in certain aspects of it up until 2007. And then there starts this patriotic nationalist new senpai, new empire push. And there's a movie called The Fish Story. And Fish Story is all about a Japanese band that is reminiscing about the one song they had that was a hit. And all their other songs were just trying to cover the West. And then the last song they recorded, they say, just read this book, and then start playing some random stuff that they remember as kids and whatever, just back and forth. It's all wrong. And the guy reads this book and it says, if I was a fish, I would be high as an elephant and I would swim in the earth and the mud would breathe and all. It just doesn't make any sense. And it's that's their most famous song. And years later, they're like, where did that come from? And they finally said, you want to know? That book I found on a shelf after World War II. This guy's wife and kids needed food and he got a job as a translator, but he couldn't speak English. So he got a dictionary and translated word for word, and it was all gibberish. But that's what Japanese culture is built upon. And you're like, what does this mean? And then right after that movie came out was this 2010 Fukushima and the tsunami, and it was this huge nationalistic push. The idea that we're Japanese by accident because we were trying to emulate something, but accidentally we became ourselves. And that's the thing that's very Maoist, that we lost the old thing and we, tried to emulate something else. But really, the true thing that is us came out of that. And I think that's a bigger issue. I think that Japan right now, they're thinking about the international disputes as well, and they're not willing to the old deal that they had to sign a treaty to never be involved in international. I don't think this new empire likes it.
It's such a great point. The rising sun will rise again, bro. They're going to get we told them they have to take the sun rays off their flag and everything. It's absurd. And now we're not in a unipolar world anymore. The U.S. doesn't get to make rules like that anymore. And Japan is sitting there looking at BRICS, looking at the U.S., looking at alliances. It's been one of the most militaristic nations of all time since its inception, except for our lifespan after World War II. But with their ability to control capital and technology and unify the Japanese people and their honor.
What's that meme? This could be.
They're going to be a military superpower. I'm looking at Japan as a near future, short-term future military superpower, especially once China's going all around the South China Sea and the U.S. is incapable of stopping them and everything.
Where are our giant warrior robots? Where
I'd
are
be in the military? I always said that if giant robots were real, I would have signed up for the military as soon as I was eligible. I'm just not.
That was a big thing with Heinlein, though, that the Starship Troopers, you didn't want to die. You didn't want to make bad decisions because if you blew up a robot, it costs so much money that your family would be indebted to this empire forever, for generations to pay back breaking the equipment. UFOs all week long. You guys heard about NASA? They started saying, "Oh, we're going to put up a bunch of information." Long story short, all they said is that they're going to keep researching and make sure you never hear anything about it. I guess that was kind of what they said.
Oh, look, flares.
But there's been flares. There's been a bunch of stuff. There was this guy who was paragliding in Texas
today. Yes.
Yeah, what do you think about this one?
Well, that video alone does not exhibit any kind of anomalous flight pattern behavior at all. It looks like it could be anything. It could be another hang glider in a far off distance. It's not doing anything that would say, hey, this is anomalous in any particular way. Like that could be a dude in a squirrel suit. It certainly does look weird. But
like a guy on a jetpack, kind of.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a guy and he's on a jetpack. I can't be sure, but
I mean, a lot of the stuff that's being fed to us in the popular sphere.
Satellite.
That would be awesome if that's what it was. And nobody's talking about the Black Knight satellite. I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, it's amazing nothing bumps into it. I thought we have like 45 trillion satellites up there, and that one just stays still and doesn't orbit, and nothing touches it.
Is there anybody making a movie about it? I don't think anyone's ever really bringing up the Black Knight. I can't think of anyone.
Launch might have been working on something, but they kind of just like shoot him away and was like, "Hey, go start writing music again. Art is going to heal the world, not the truth."
Not the
Black
same
Knight Satellite is an awesome band name, by the way.
Yeah, I like that. Like Astrofunk, space futurism. Afrofuturism. That'd be good. But I don't know. Okay, so the UFO thing, it seems like we're hearing about it more and more, but it's going to be no alien stuff every time.
It's AI generated.
You think it's AI generated? Okay.
I'm just messing with that.
Well, yeah, it could be. It's like, I think we're going to... Sorry.
Oh, just the AI filters. Before we were talking about the lawyers and stuff, and how there's like how our cameras can see more than we can, and so when you feed that through like an AI art generator, people are saying like it could diagnose it could identify like a part of you that's ill or like see ghosts or whatever. That's
what I thought you were gonna say, ghosts.
The ill one's interesting though because it's able to diagnose you having leukemia or lymphoma 3 years before a doctor could do it, which was really interesting. There's been a number of things they can infer, and also just data itself. So there were algorithms that they built 20 years ago so that you take a video and you can see the room because the light reflecting off me, you can see all behind you essentially if you have this algorithm. And I'm sure that's only better now with AI. I've been wondering when we're going to start to see like the sets from black and white movies, because you could get all the shots of the person working on the camera and everything. I mean, it doesn't require sound. It's just all based on light refraction. Also, this week, I've seen so many people posting fake pictures from AI as if they were real, more and more and more. They're like,
Well,
look at this.
Last week there was that awful AI generated picture of an apparent explosion from the Pentagon, which didn't picture the Pentagon at all. That disrupted the stock markets for a couple of hours. Yeah.
Wow. I think psyops are going to become more rampant for sure. We're going to see more and more. But do you think it's going to get to a point where we literally? I mean, because again, with the not having debates, I feel like we're leading towards a point where people are going to just dismiss the media entirely anyway. Because you won't know.
It's going to be prove it. The baseline will be okay. Prove it. Otherwise, it's fake.
You won't know what independent media actually is. Mainstream media is the thing.
This is going to be interesting.
Like people talking about like shills and stuff, you know what I mean? So yeah, the mainstream media, no one puts any stock in it, but people put a lot of stock in like Joe Rogan. What if it turns out he is mainstream media undercover or something? You know?
What if he's a Fed? I thought Alex Jones was a Fed for a hot second.
Totally possible.
That'd be cute. I don't know. The idea that we're going to that this war that's coming, that no one. I mean, it's one thing because we always say stay cynical, don't believe anything you hear. But if everybody does that, I mean, where are we at? This is like we're at a point where no information's trusted anymore at all, right? I mean,
not trusted outright. I mean, if we get to a point where we can all go, hey, wait a minute, let me see some evidence, let me check it myself, let me discern for myself and not simply dive into team red or team blue or whatever I believe without question. If we can get to a point where we're actually critically thinking a little bit more than we are at the moment, I think that's a net positive. That's a good thing.
I mean, questioning everything is good, but I think the idea that we might forget everything that we believe, it's just like the idea that after a generation of that, you don't have anything that you're holding on to. You have no frame of reference anymore.
We hold on to it because we don't have anything to replace it with is the thing. Like I think most people understand that everything is a bunch of BS, but they're like, and you want to replace it with what? You know what I mean? So it's like once there's actually some alternatives, I think people are going to warm up real quickly and kind of become more open.
Yes, I agree with that. We're all looking for that alternative, I think.
Well, let's see how these Freedom City goes. Our 10 new Freedom Cities. You know?
Oh yeah.
Well, changes are coming.
We could talk about freedom cities. We talk about 15-minute cities. But the cyber pandemic seems like relevant because they've been really harping this idea that there's going to be, hey, we did so well with the first one. We're going to do a digital download of COVID this time. And that way everyone can get it. I don't know. Is that the plan? Because they want to have the same thing. They want to have the pandemic quarantine. Everyone's isolated. No one can go outside, but just digital, right? It'll just erase all the data. And they've been making these, kind of in the fashion of Event 201 in the 311 group, they've had this cyber pandemic, this inevitable cyber pandemic. What do you call it? Simulations. So and everyone in the last few days, right? Haven't you heard this? That they're saying 2024 probably there could be a virus so powerful that it just completely duplicates itself over everything and erases everyone's whatever's left on the hardware they can't buy from Taiwan after it's been bombed.
Yes, go ahead.
No, you please.
I've simply heard that the Klaus Schwab discussed this, where and what would happen if there is a virus that gets out and eliminates the internet, and you all have to depend on me. Yeah, that is definitely something that they have pushed out as a scenario for the near future.
One important psychological difference between that and the 2020 pandemic is that the 2020 pandemic played on irrational fears, like germophobia, basically. So and a cyber, whatever you're talking about, like a crash, like a grid crash, is a rational fear. You know what I mean? So I think people's reaction would be totally different.
It would be wait. It's which one's rational?
What you're talking about, the potential 2024 cyber pandemic,
right? Yeah,
that's a
right.
rational fear. The grid shutting down,
right?
A super contagion with no evidence of they're not burning bodies in the streets and all that stuff. That was irrational.
Right.
After the first 2 weeks.
Postulated versus rational. Postulated versus
people
rational.
were able to personalize it more because they know what it feels like to have a bad cold or a flu, and they're like, how would you like an even worse flu? And they're like, oh my god, that's the worst. But they're like, how would you like to have like a cyber hack that affects the power grid? First of all, it's not personal, you know what I mean, and also it's more of just like a run of the mill concern. If you run out of money, you don't have electricity. It's like you can encounter that problem in other ways.
South Park kind of hit this cyber pandemic idea with the emoji. What was it? The emoji analysis episode arc, where they build an AI with Elon Musk that's able to tell who wrote anything, right? Which is using emoji analysis, but really, if you could decrypt anything, you could tell that. So that's kind of the point. And no, it's dangerous because all the people in charge realize it'll work on them as well. So they want to remove the system. So the only way to do that would be, and the episode ends with a complete reset, and then everyone's off their phones for a few days, and South Park goes back to normal. I mean, I wonder sometimes about this because it's the internet. I mean, essentially, we've already paced ourselves beyond it. We're in Facebook and Google and these, Stasi concentrated area servers, but the internet still exists, and it could be a problem for that. They want to destroy it. This is the best way to make sure that there's no more peer-to-peer access. You kill the old internet, and it's not quite dead yet until this.
So we need to build a parallel internet somehow.
I like how Nolan says install McAfee. I mean, I took that spiritually, though. I mean,
are they going to have that when you get Neuralink? Like, do you want virus protection?
God, if McAfee was still alive, I would install him. Are you kidding me?
In your brain.
Yeah, keep me safe. I don't know, and I think that's the problem. I don't think we're going to get to a point where but AI itself isn't the problem. AI isn't the problem. It's robots and machines and everything else being taken off the market. Because if nothing's able to run on those things, right now we're moving at a point where technology is going faster because also the price of producing these things is becoming cheaper. And when Moore's law ends, which it will, then that won't be the case. And it looks like that's this year. They're already shutting down a lot of these fabrications of silicon wafers in Taiwan. They're smuggling them to Arizona for Biden's bringing the population of Taiwan that he can. And then China is going to move in. But everything's going to be split. And you won't have chips that are able to harmonize with each other. They won't be able to interact. So we're going to start splitting off and isolating ourselves. This is the year where that starts to happen technologically. And if next year is this major virus, then the only people that can survive it are people that aren't on the old system. So it'll be the end of the old system. It's like the surefire dynamite way to end the old world.
Would that also, though, if we were to end our experience with the internet in its current iteration, would that also not bring back the old world? Paper, pencils, the magnetic strip with the credit card. I'm like, what's stopping humanity going, okay, look, we did this for way longer before the internet. If they shut it down and try to impose a much more controlled version of it where we won't be able to actually do what we used to do, what's stopping us? Well, we can do it without you.
I guess if only that there'll be another system that they put out there. So it's like, as this record ends, they have another record ready to play. And so the transition, it'd be, if it takes a generation, then sure. Like a generation, humans will build their own habits again. But if the power is only out for as long as it takes for them to put in new light bulbs, then the new system and this is what's been going on. People become more comfortable, like 2008, up until 2008, human middle-class Americans, for the most part, lived a way that's impossible now. And so but you can't notice it because it's been subsidized in certain ways. So people still live with consumer goods in houses. It's veiled in a way that Germany wasn't after World War I.
Well, I think that in order to have your own alternate internet, I mean, especially if Moore's law is ending, like you said, then it's going to be extremely expensive. You need basically billionaire funding, and billionaires don't have liquidity. They have banks. So if the banks are already making ESG decisions, and banks just wouldn't fund billionaires who wanted to invest in an alternate internet.
Yeah, it's like the government didn't come out with a vaccine.
You could crowdfund it.
Moderna, Pfizer, or whatever. So who would be the big players in providing the infrastructure for their centralized?
Right, because the cost of entry basically requires you to enslave hundreds of millions of people to get that kind of capital to do these projects to begin with. That's why there's not very much private space travel and stuff like that. It's expensive.
Yes, that is the reason why.
Or even the rockets, even they just bounce off a dome. I mean, no one's shooting them. I mean,
also just the idea of simulating the cyber attack. I'm very curious because if you looked at the 201 simulation, a lot of the things that ended up happening, if you got a model, you're going to model your reality off your model. So I want to know more about the cyber pandemic simulation and how long they expect the internet to be out, how long they expect power grids to be out, and what the real damage they're saying is. Because part of it is like if a dam opens up because it's been kept locked because of this machine and opens, if every dam opens up, if water diverts other directions, it's not just if your power goes out, it's like if your prison's doors don't stay locked anymore. And so all of a sudden your consolidated organized criminals are released in every major place at once. I mean, it's just such a perfect.
And also, it's like all the food is here, but we just can't sell it to you. We have no way to do a transaction. Like the food's all here.
Oh my God, that happened to my mother. I was at a place with my family a week or two ago, and the power didn't work. They were freaking out, and the waiter just walked off because after we'd bought we had food and we'd eaten, and it was time to pay the bill, and he just had a panic attack because he couldn't use the machine and just left. And I was like, "What are we supposed to do?" And they didn't even charge us. They're just like, "Oh, I don't know." It was crazy. I don't know. It was like 20 different people, I think, also. So it must have been like thousands of dollars. Imagine what they're going to go through in these restaurants. I mean,
do
the whole
society. Know how to write down credit card numbers anymore? Like,
I mean, I could have paid in cash even. I don't know. Yeah. The whole thing was ridiculous. It was just like, I mean, we could have looked at the menu and figured out what we ordered, but it was just too much. It was just too much emotionally for this kid, I think.
Well, and perhaps there will be a whole bunch of people that can't handle the shutdown, but it seems like, I mean, at least with this foursome here, if the power were to go off, we'd be like, hold on a second. Let me write my CC down. Let me get you some cash. Let me throw down a 20 for you. Calm down. It'll be fine. Get some water for yourself. Get some water for the table. We're going to be okay. Like, I think humanity is a lot more resilient than
I agree with you, Doug. Yeah, I don't even think a 10-day blackout or any extended blackout or Jericho event is coming. Like, there's a lot of things that could come. Godzilla could come. What's the likelihood that a blackout?
How long does it have to last to actually be a blackout? Because the thing is, it has to last long enough that everyone's used up their round of ammunition for every gun they have. They have run out of their gas and their diesel for their generators. Their solar panels aren't working anymore. I mean, like the levels it's going to take for there actually to be a full. All they could do is to shut down the grid. But in the process of doing that, then it would reveal how many people are off grid or semi off grid already. Because a lot of people could survive with USB solar lithium batteries and everything. And it would just minimize, how much we take it for granted.
Well, since it's a false scarcity event that we're talking about to begin with, I mean, another way to continue the false scarcity would just be using the military to not allow people to homestead, similar to the Holodomor.
It does feel like that.
But I don't think it's coming. I think people are like looking forward to a war that's coming or there's about to be, we're entering this war. I feel like we're exiting a war. Like building technology is inevitable. That's what human beings do. Like bees make beehives. And so far it's been like the reward risk ratio has not been great. Like there's been a lot of downsides, but as the technology improves, I think the chances of it becoming just hyper catastrophic or utopic become more realistic. So I think we've got a good chance of making things compared to how they are now utopic once we get through this awkward technological stage. So I'm optimistic about the future.
The truth always reveals itself, no matter how much you try to hide it, for better and for worse. And that's a recurring theme in my life, especially in the past few months. And I've been observing this reflected in the environment around me. It's secrets can only stay secret for so long. So.
That's true. Yeah.
There's been, go ahead.
No, please go.
Well, just in terms of that, I mean, the French telecoms minister was threatening Twitter with a ban EU under disinformation law. Like they're trying really hard to ban truth and information, and it everywhere you go, like the idea that it's disinformation. We in America spelled this out with like the Hunter Biden laptop is the most. It's a pretty big example where something was completely censored from the internet because it was considered disinformation, only to be found out later that it was true information. Disinformation is different than misinformation, I guess, is a lesson there.
Isn't disinformation coined by the kings of disinformation?
It seems like it, yeah. But so
we're coming up with these terms like conspiracy theory and, anyways.
They're good branding. I agree. You saw Tara Reid fled to Russia and is about that.
Actress?
No,
No,
not
never
that
mind.
one.
I'm sorry.
Wouldn't it be cool if that was the Tara Reid who claimed of sexual assault of Joe Biden? No, this Tara Reid, former Senate staffer who made claims in 2020 about sexual assault by Joe Biden, moved to Russia recently alongside convicted Russian agent U.S. Maria Butina. I mean, this is, I think, kind of interesting because a lot of people were like, no way, Russian spies. And other people were like, of course, Russian spies. And there was never a middle ground reached between the Russian misinformation campaign and no Russian information campaign.
It's more like that didn't work. Now he's president. He's going to kill you. Like, you need to go somewhere that, she's like Ed Snowden hiding in Russia.
Put some distance.
Now.
Yeah.
Seems a little old to be his type, but I mean,
not.
I've seen him
I think
snuffle up on some old ladies.
Well,
How long ago was this?
It was a while ago.
There we go.
Oh, yeah.
It was a while ago. She was young when he.
1993. Got it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. See, that tracks. Yeah. Okay. So. Oh, brutal. Yeah. All right. Well, statement on AI risks, risk of extinction to industry. How about this? The idea that AI is going to make all jobs extinct. We kind of talked about it's not a big deal, but.
Good.
Are you good on that? We don't really need that.
Yeah. Jobs for what? It's like jobs keep us from like spiritual growth.
Well, I mean, the hard truth about it is that, we do continue to progress and vocations fall by the wayside, and they have to. And when you try to keep them around, that it just gums up, it monkey wrenches the whole work. So people, life is a condition of joy and suffering, and people who are on the cusp of their vocation is going away are going to suffer, economically because of that. And it's unfortunate. And I wish we were more organized as a society where we could look out for those people, like a fraternity used to look out for like orphans and widows and stuff, so people don't fall through the cracks. But we have to get rid of, it's like when they invented the steam shovel, they're like, one guy drives a steam shovel, you just put 100 shovel guys out of a job. And Murray Rothbard had a famous quote where somebody came to him with that in a debate, and he was like, well, then why don't we get rid of the shovels and give them spoons? Then we can have 10,000 men all employed, So it's like it just shows how ridiculous it is right there.
I think it'll become full Ouroboros, snake eating its own tail when we have an AI generated radio show host.
Yeah, we're there. I mean, you saw Seinfeld, so we're so close. We'll get him on as soon as he's available.
Yeah.
I'm kind of AI generated. Like, you can get my voice to read stuff. Like, I'm halfway there. We'll get an app eventually, the Xirtus app.
We need to get you on an AM band, like
1080
signal. Yeah,
sounds fun.
You should have like premium memberships where you say naughty things.
Is work really like the enemy? I like that idea because I don't like work, but a lot of the things I do, someone might be like, you work really hard on your podcast. I'm like, shut up, don't you dare, or something like that. I don't like the idea of work.
The point of work is to accomplish things, but the thing is not the digging. You're digging, so then you put down a foundation and make a building. Like, the point of work is to create stuff, not to create.
I just
work.
Watched Unstable with Rob Lowe, and his son's trying to get him to go back to his biotech company, but like throughout the week he takes odd jobs just digging and putting peat moss down on just to feel like he's accomplishing something, because working and doing some sort of physical labor from 9 to 12, by the end of the afternoon you've got a whole grass, you can see your lawn, it's beautiful, and then that helps him go back and do to work on these masturbatory ideas of biotechnology and DNA genomics, right? So maybe work is important. Maybe we do need that in order. That's part of a healthy lifestyle or something. Homesteading.
A lot of artists.
Work is different than a job. Yes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But just putting your body in motion and doing work frees up the other hemisphere. It creates more of hemisphere linking when your body is in motion. So that's why intellectuals and artists have their best ideas when they're walking, hiking, running. And if you're doing a physical activity like cooking or something you detest, you know what I mean? Then it's a matter of mind state, I guess. But you should be able to still get the same result.
So the value of labor is the labor itself. Interesting.
We're in a moving body because we're meant to move. When you don't move, no part of your body works, including your brain. So we're meant to move most of the waking day, pretty much the whole waking day.
Yeah, I've been working construction, and I'm making the most money that I ever have, and I'm using my body in the most like laborious way that I ever have, and I'm getting stronger as a result of it, and it's great. And it is freeing up my mind to be more creative. But the problem with that is that I don't have the time to execute on those ideas. So I think, yeah, balance is really the key to everything, isn't it?
See, that's the thing. I think AI could come up with a solution to all these things. It might upset people because like it'll take over your life, but it'll make it possible for you to have the best ideas you could have. It might turn you into a machine, the healthiest machine that can think and create. And that might suck for some people. I mean, you imagine artists that go through Juilliard or they go to a training. I mean, to be an actor, Doug, is suffering. No, there's more to it, I guess.
Well, there's a lot more to it than simply suffering, but there's certainly a lot of work involved. I mean, everybody talks about you're doing the work. Are you putting the work in? Yes, the idea of finding balance, I think, is right. And this, Andreas, you bring up an interesting point. I always go back to the video game Detroit Become Human, where we all have our own personal robots. So, look, I'm going to do the work that I feel inclined to do, and the work that I don't want to do, the robot's going to do. And I have to take care of this robot. There's work involved and upkeep in the robot, but that work is way more valuable than me going around the house and doing all the repairs, cleaning the gutters, taking out the trash. The robot's going to do that. I'm going to take care of the robot. And I get to sit back and go, okay, what do I want to create? What stories do I want to share in? Who do I want to reconnect with? And there's so much about the human experience that belongs to the connective tissue of the human experience that we're not taking into account. We're all thinking of ourselves as atomized individuals when really, if we have more free time, I want to hang out with the people I like, to share ideas and see what I can come up with. Whenever I get together with friends, childhood friends of mine, inevitably we talk about, hey, wouldn't it be cool if there was a movie about this? What about this? Or a story about this? Like that is so much fun to me. And to think about the collaborative effort involved in creating a story like that is something that has become so detached, and the industry itself has made it, that's it. That's Hollywood. Where it's not. We all do that. We're doing it right now.
I did love that show, Barry, for that reason. Wait, sorry, Andrew, go ahead.
I just, you talking about having a robot do all of your work for you so you could explore more human connections. Mark Zuckerberg now makes so much more sense. I would hope that the person that we're seeing is his robot self, and he's off living his best life, somewhere.
He's the guy at the jiu-jitsu tournament.
Be a relieving revelation, like, oh, it is a robot. I thought so, Mark. Yeah.
I just remember, like, the other day he posted a picture of himself in full body armor, and I was just thinking to myself, like, if anyone else posted this on Facebook, Mark, if anybody else, but not you.
Yeah, it's illegal in some states.
Stay home from Facebook, Anons. Mosquitoes are terrifying, and the Zika virus freaked me out when I was in Venezuela, right? So I worry about women who are pregnant getting stung by mosquitoes, and this has become apparently the season of the most mosquitoes, and there's some sort of new virus that's being spread. This little last bit of fever porn for you there. What do you think about this? Apparently it's the biggest mosquito year in decades or something like that. All across the Midwest, they're like having outbreaks where there's thousands of mosquitoes in places where they didn't expect them to be. It just reminds me of the 10 Commandments with pestilence or something. And
it reminds me of Bill Gates intentionally dropping billions of mosquitoes all over the country.
That was the first. Yeah, let's get back to that. Let's talk about the Bill Gates Zika thing for a second, just to remind.
Why can't we have little drones that are mosquito hunters and just kill thousands?
Actually,
fly around you.
Tiny little drones you can't even see. They're just going around, going at war with mosquitoes.
Some guy invented a hypersonic mosquito repellent. It's some sort of. We'll have to look it up. But
what's that, a frequency? Yeah, I've been seeing ads for that. No more mosquitoes. Yeah,
I use
worry
this
about
all the time.
that,
Actually,
playing with frequencies.
I use a bat noises. I type in mosquito bat sound on YouTube, and there's like 10-hour video, and I'll just wave my phone around or I'll play it, and it will. Yeah, mosquitoes will immediately go to the corners of the walls.
Do they learn?
And then they'll like 101 Dalmatians, they'll file out of the room like they're all trying to.
Do they eventually learn when there's never a bat? Because I used to have eagle sounds to scare pigeons off my roof, and eventually they figured it out and weren't afraid.
There's
of it.
no
birds aren't real, so that's a whole different issue.
Yeah, good point.
But insects are terrifying. I just was looking at these documentaries. They found like a 7-foot wingspan dragonfly, a 30-foot millipede,
7-foot wingspan
fossilized.
Oh,
okay, all right.
Yeah. Fossilized. But the point is these things did and can exist, and insects are way more terrifying. They live very quickly though, so they're not likely to adapt instinct to learning in a
The
lifetime.
large ones too? Wouldn't the large
We were
ones live a lot
giants
longer?
when they were.
I think it's like 2 years, 18 months is like the length for some of those large ones as well. I don't know. I haven't seen. I mean, they don't know because it's fossilized, but
So we lived for thousands of years and were giants at that time. So it kind of evens out, right?
that's totally fair.
Above,
I
so
like you,
below.
Andrew. That's really good.
Smaller and faster.
But the Zika virus thing, because they said, oh, Bill Gates has a way to end the Zika virus because he's going to give this cure to the mosquitoes. But the same company was accused of creating the Zika virus originally. So it's interesting we don't hear that side of the story. And the Zika virus is weird because you get it, you don't notice it, and then your baby's born with a skull that won't fit the brain, and the brain starts to like bleed out the eyes and the ears, and it causes all sorts of horrifying birth defects or miscarriages as much as possible, it sounds like. And this was all in Venezuela right at the time of the transition of governance, right, and new power, and then Maduro was losing control of the coup that was happening. And wouldn't it be interesting if there was some connection to the Zika virus and mosquitoes? I don't know.
I wouldn't. I mean, yeah, wasn't Africa ravaged by Zika, and that's kind of the testing ground for a lot of these things. So
they talked about using mosquitoes to transmit the vaccine. You heard about that, right?
In 2014, and also putting it in bananas. Bill Gates said because everyone in the world eats bananas.
Yeah. So
That was
I
in
mean,
2014. I'm convinced they've been spraying it everywhere. People that think they outsmarted that program and they're not vaxxed. I think
universal mosquito vaccine. No, this is the wrong one. But the idea that they release, if you've released mosquitoes into nature that have, I mean, of course, that's how blood works and viruses work. It'll propagate and it'll spread. So testing it in some small area and doesn't matter because they fly, and if the area isn't isolated by ice and by mountains so that they can't cross a barrier, then, or if someone's bringing vehicles over those mountains, then very quickly it spreads. So the ideal way to disseminate isn't by offering people free lap dances for vaccines, it's by putting them into the mosquitoes, right?
Right. Yeah. The whole point of the whole point of the vaccine program was compliance, you know. But there's easier ways. You can aerosolize it and spray it out of planes. Like they already do that. Just add it to the recipe, you know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, speaking of, do you guys remember the black lines that were showing up in the sky that they were covering up? That was such a weird, short-lived thing, and I didn't notice it until I noticed it when they pointed it out, and then I didn't notice it after that. But there still were the.
I don't know about this. What's the black lines in the sky?
Yeah.
No, I'd imagine it could be a chemtrail. Well, I mean, if you do a little, you know, think about it, puzzle it out in your head. Where's the source of light and where's the obstruction? So it's something that's higher than the clouds in the atmosphere that the sun is casting a shadow on the atmosphere.
This is like Truman Show stuff. Wow.
A nylon rip in the globe and the cover of the.
So there's a trail somewhere. There's a trail of a craft. Most likely that's what a line across the sky would be, but it's above the atmosphere, between the sun and like high enough in the atmosphere where there's no clouds and stuff like that. So it's what we're seeing as the blue sky is actually a hazy sky just from universal pollution. So it's like a screen, and that shadow is being cast by the trail of some craft way high up.
I think screen was the operative word that you said there. Sorry.
Oh, you think it's like literally a screen?
Blue beam, maybe, possibly. Who knows? They've been talking about Project Blue Beam for quite some time, but that's. I don't know how much validity there is to that. That was because they always talked about doing the revealing that there were aliens through that.
Right. Either that or the return of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Michael Aquino has some stuff talking about laser projections for that purpose as well in Fear Itself, his book.
But what do you think those dark lines are? You think that's a hologram? What would be the point of just a dark line hologram?
Well, I have no theories. I'm absorbed in the mystery of it. I haven't even begun to think of it.
Because I used to see those chemtrail shadows and I had to work it out in my head. I was like, where is the chemtrail then? You know, because I'm like a science guy. So I had to actually think about it for a second to figure out where's the source of light and where's the obstruction.
Well, do we know that it is a shadow? Is it a shadow, or is it
what
actually?
Else could it be?
Well, it could be a dim strip of something in the high atmosphere. I don't know. That is interesting.
Oh, you mean like a different kind of chemtrail that's black?
Sure, yeah.
Well, the regular chemtrail is 90% coal ash that is black, but it appears white in the sky like that.
So it very well could be a shadow.
Oh, look at that one where it's like half and half.
Well, this is a jet following a dark line, so the jet's following behind it,
trying to cover it up.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's pretty interesting.
Very interesting. Or maybe it is actually a parting in the screened blue fake atmosphere that we are most used to. Maybe it is a slow parting, a breaking down of the projection that we have been living under for so long. I don't know.
That's interesting. Also, it could be a lighter than air chemtrail that goes up and disperses above the ionosphere or
That's
something.
cool. That's cool.
Bro's
Some
like,
sort of
it's
disruption,
shadow.
yeah. It's a black hole line created by something traveling faster than the speed of light. So, I don't know,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a temporary
That's the best way to
distortion
like
field.
Well, we're pretty close to the end here. I'm gonna go to the VBDC links. I want you guys to check out Seth's new music video.
Is it out? Is your album out yet?
No, not yet. It'll be coming this summer, probably
All right,
July,
cool.
hopefully
Sweet.
July
Cool.
or August.
Cool.
I really like
I've-
the Pure Bloods music video. It's actually pretty sweet, and Joshua Tree, and if you're into like positive feels and good vibes, you're gonna love
And bass
VBDC.
lyrics.
Oh, you can't hear it. Oh, this computer's not like the other one.
That's all good,
next
bro. Yeah.
time.
Everything's
also-
on my link tree. I do have a new album coming soon. I'll be begging for pre-orders and within a couple weeks. So please follow me on Spotify and subscribe to my VBDC YouTube channel for music videos. I also have Rocket Buster Wrestling. If you like pro wrestling, I do a pro wrestling review show just for fun. And that's about it.
Nice.
Oh, everybody go watch Muppet Mayhem. Man,
Oh,
that
yeah.
show is amazing. One of a kind.
Muppet Mayhem.
Yeah. Everyone's got to watch it.
Yeah, we didn't talk about Mario Brothers. We'll have to save that for next time. Did you see my AI Mario Brother thing yet?
No.
I want you to
Oh
compare.
yes,
A
yeah,
work
yeah.
of art.
I wanted you to compare.
Deep.
Yeah, I feel like it was more close to what Mario would have wanted for his story to be told. I feel like. Good job, AI.
Is it in our like message thread thing?
Yeah, if you go to
Oh, okay,
I can
okay.
send it, but if you go to like YouTube and you type in
2 hour long epic.
I think I saw it, but I didn't realize it was something you made. I thought it was
Mario
just a crazy
AI
thing.
generated. I know I should put my name on things. I figure people will watch them less if they know I made it. But
Really?
I guess that's not true necessarily. I don't know. My
Oh, this
friends
is like a
will watch.
2-hour movie. Oh, this looks awesome.
Yeah, it's got voices and there's like it's all AI narrated and AI written, and the story is just wild. I think it's my
Wow.
favorite Mario story yet. Good job, AI. Really proud of you this time.
I'm gonna check it out.
But also Bat Monkey Customs. Ooh,
Okay,
follow
I
that.
know I said I wouldn't peddle my wares, but click
Please
on that
do.
cartel link.
Pedal your wares.
Honestly, if there's anybody I wanted to peddle my
Ooh,
These are
Oh,
very
cool.
comfortable. And the resolution, I got the highest resolution
33.
that they have on that's publicly available, and most
I'm
of the
not
other
getting
companies
this.
that are selling similar stuff have like the old one from 5 years ago where it's like half the resolution.
I'm
I
definitely
wish I
getting
had
this.
one of the blankets on me. I don't get very much from them. I just wanted to make them because I wanted one. So
That's super sweet.
Awesome.
Super glad you did that. Yes, I'm definitely gonna get a towel. That's super rad. Make sure you bring a Heronius Bosch
Beach
towel.
towel. Yeah.
So good, so good. All right, and Bat Monkey Customs is my buddy here, Andrew Vega, and yeah, you can use the guillotine code if you want to order to save. See, that's pretty sweet.
Nice.
Plus, he does a lot of cool stuff. He's an interesting guy. He's a good friend. I'm glad that you exist, Andrew. Keep making leather
like
art.
that.
Look at this
Feeling
stuff.
mutual.
He makes this stuff. You want to buy
Wow.
That was
something?
for a
Wow.
band, some stage wear.
Wow.
dude.
Wicked.
Super based human being. I'm worried if I go too far down, I'll find stuff I'm not allowed to share because he used to do some wild stuff, man. Some leather work and how that goes.
No, I don't. That's not on this. I actually got canceled for that. So
Oh, that's why the K instead of this. It's crazy. Weird. All right. Well, Mr. Douglas, also amazing. You've got the Secrets of Power audiobook series right here. Ingo Swann, Volume 1. Ingo Swann, Volume 2 right here that came out like a month ago now. So I hope that you're all listening to Ingo Swann and in the best voice narrator could create. And the manifestation of Douglas is beautiful. We're glad you exist.
Thank you. Yes, a new podcast episode was released recently discussing some of the excerpts from the second volume of Secrets of Power.
I'm
Check
Darth
it
Hall.
out. No, MrDouglas.com. But
Oh, hey.
Darth Call, we did an episode 2 weeks ago. I believe we are on target for tomorrow evening. So visit us, Better Call tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Better
Sweet.
Call Thursday
Wait,
night.
so this is this podcast you're talking about it, or this is reading from it?
It's talking. I'm going through certain excerpts
Oh.
that I pulled, and I discuss the excerpts in my own fun,
Oh, sweet.
more
awesome.
relaxed way. Yeah,
Hanging
Guys,
with
this is
Mr.
great. Yeah, I can't wait to listen to this. I'm really
it's on
excited.
YouTube as well. It's on YouTube as well.
This is epic. Awesome.
Thank you. Thank
And then, yeah, you guys know me. You can go
I
to
like that graphic.
TargetNova.com. Come to
You know me?
TargetNova.com and get up in my group and join our, and it's like
Get
us,
up
share-
and Andres, smash that like button,
get up in our
everybody.
business and support us, and we appreciate.
If you don't
the
know
work.
me, you ain't a homie.
Yeah, what's up? All right. Well, I love you all. We'll see you soon. Thank you for being here.
Happy
Peace and love.
Wednesday Ultra, Andreas.
Bye.
Happy Wednesday Ultra.
Happy